The first thing I noticed about her wasn't her face. It was how she held the watch, with both hands against her chest, as if she were carrying something alive that was about to stop breathing. It was Thursday, 5:48 p.m. I remember exactly because I was just flipping the sign to closed when the bell above the door jingled, letting her in along with the cold air and the smell of rain. My name is Leo Garth. I'm 31 and I fix clocks and watches in a shop I inherited from my father, on a street where half the signs have already gone dark forever. I spend most of my life taking apart mechanisms that have stopped, figuring out the exact moment time decided to give up. I'm good at finding what's broken. With people, not so much. "We're closing," I said, not taking my eyes off the sign. "I know," she answered. "I came on purpose when everyone else would be gone." That made me turn around. She was about my age, in a gray coat, wet on the shoulders, with dark hair tied back as if she had been fighting it all day and gave up halfway through. She placed a pocket watch on the counter, old silver with a worn case. The kind they make once in 100 years and never again. "It stopped," she said. "A long time ago. Can you fix it?" I opened the case, brought my loupe to my eye. The mechanism was beautiful, German, from the turn of the last century, and dead. Not broken, dead. The mainspring hadn't just snapped, it was entirely missing. Someone at some point had taken out the heart of this watch. "There's no mainspring," I said, "and the balance wheel is bent. Honestly, it's cheaper to buy a new one. This one won't come back to life." Something in her face closed off for a second. Not disappointment, something older. "I don't want a new one," she said. "This one. Only this one." "I can look for a spring for this caliber," I said cautiously, "but it will take time and money, and there's no guarantee I'll find it." "I have time," she said. "That seems to be the only thing I have in abundance." She smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. "How much do you need?" "Come back in a week," I said. Not because I needed a week, but because I didn't know how to tell her never. She nodded and took the watch back, which surprised me. Usually people leave them, and headed for the door. On the threshold, she turned around. "Thank you for not saying no right away," she said, and walked out into the rain before I could find the words to reply. I stood at the counter, and the shop suddenly felt very quiet. 20 wall clocks were ticking out of sync, just like always, but for the first time in a long time, this silence felt empty to me. I'm Leo, and I need to explain something about myself so the rest of this makes sense. 3 years ago, I was engaged. Her name was Iris. She didn't leave with shouting or a scandal. She left during dinner, she pushed her plate away and said, "Leo, you fix everything except what's between us." And then she got up, took her coat off my hook, and left. That was it. There are phrases that are spoken quietly, but then live in your chest for years. After that, I became good at one thing, closing up early and telling myself I preferred it that way. The following Thursday, the bell jingled at 5:46 p.m. I caught myself glancing at the door all day and felt angry at myself for it. She came in wearing the same coat. She placed the same watch on the counter. "Well?" she asked. "I found a watchmaker in Prague. He might have the spring," I said. It was the truth. I really had spent 3 evenings scouring forums for a guy who kept a stock of parts for dead calibers, for a watch I was supposed to bury. "Is that good news?" she asked. "Cautious news," I said, "like the weather in winter." She laughed, genuinely, a short, surprised laugh, and then tucked it away again too quickly. "I'm Maya," she said suddenly, holding out her hand. "Since my watch is wintering with you, we should introduce ourselves." "Leo." I shook her hand, cold from the street, and my whole body noticed it. She took the watch back again. "Why do you keep taking it with you?" I couldn't help but ask. "I can keep it here while I look for the part." Maya looked at the case in her hand. "I know," she said. "I just feel calmer when it's with me." And she left. Again. And once again I stood there, listening to 20 clocks ticking out of sync, thinking about a woman who carries dead time around with her because it makes her feel calmer. That's how it started. Every Thursday, close to closing time, the bell, the gray coat, the same watch on the counter. "Well?" And my cautious, increasingly fabricated answers. Because, I confess, by the third Thursday, the spring from Prague was already sitting in my drawer. I could have fixed the watch in a single evening, but I didn't, because a fixed watch meant Maya wouldn't come back. On the third Thursday, I brewed coffee for two before flipping the sign. I told myself I just wanted coffee, poured the second cup casually, as an afterthought. You knew I was coming, Maya said, looking at the two cups. I made a prediction, I said, like a meteorologist. You do a lot of predicting for someone who fixes such precise things. Clocks are more honest than people, I said. They at least beat when they're alive. Maya wrapped both hands around the cup, the same grip she used on the watch. Are you alive, Leo? She asked, lightly. But I felt that the question was real. I beat on Thursdays, I said, and she laughed again, and this time she didn't hide it away so fast. That evening we talked for an hour without noticing it. She told me she taught music at a school, that she hated the smell of chalk and loved the smell of rosin, that she had moved to this city 6 months ago and still hadn't hung up half her paintings. I told her I grew up behind this counter, that I had a habit of fixing other people's clocks but forgetting to wind my own watch, that my father used to say, "You can't fix time, Leo. You can only make it move again." I like that, Maya said quietly, and the way she said it made the air in the shop feel a little warmer for a second. Then her gaze fell on the watch in her hands, and the warmth faded. I should go, she said, and she left, the way she always did, with the dead watch against her chest. Outside the window, a street lamp flickered, went out, and came back on. Old, like everything else on this street. I watched the rain run down the glass, and then the wind seemed to drive the drops back up. On the fourth Thursday, it was raining hard, and Maya came in soaked to the bone because she had forgotten her umbrella. I gave her my father's old sweater from the back room, gray with worn-out elbows. She pulled it on over her wet blouse. It was too big for her, and the way she looked in it made me forget why I was holding a screwdriver. "Don't look at me like that," she said, without raising her eyes. "Like what?" "Like you noticed something." "I'm a watchmaker," I said. "Noticing things is the whole job." She sat on a stool by the workbench, pulling her knees up, wearing my sweater, holding a cup of tea, and watched me work on someone else's wall clock, silently, comfortably, as if she had been doing it her whole life. "Can I ask you something?" I said, not looking up from the mechanism. "Depends on the question." "Whose watch is it? Really?" Maya was quiet for a long time. The clocks on the walls ticked. "My fiance's," she finally said, and the air in the shop froze. "Your ex-fiancé?" I asked cautiously. "No," she said. And before I could figure out what to feel, she added, "He died 2 years ago. This watch stopped on that day, and I haven't let anyone wind it since." I put the screwdriver down. "Maya," I said, "I'm so sorry." "Everyone says that," she said quietly, and then they ask how he died, with a look on their face like they're hoping the pain comes with details. "I'm not going to ask," I said. She looked up at me. "Why?" "Because how he died doesn't matter," I said. "What matters is that you still carry his time against your chest. I can see that already." Something in her face trembled, a thing a person hides even from themselves. "I didn't bring it to be fixed," she whispered. "I brought it so someone would finally tell me it couldn't be brought back to life. So a stranger would say it, so I could believe it." "But I didn't say that," I said. "You didn't," she nodded. "You're the only one in 2 years who hasn't said no, and I didn't know what to do with that, so I kept coming back." We sat in the pool of light from the lamp while the rain poured outside and 20 clocks ticked out of sync, and for the first time in a long time I didn't feel like I had to fix it. I was just there with her. "I have a confession," I finally said. Maya tensed. "The spring from Prague," I said. "It arrived 3 weeks ago. I can fix this watch in a single evening. I could have this whole time." She blinked. "Then why?" "Because a fixed watch meant you would stop coming," I said, and the words hung in the air, too honest to take back. Maya looked at me for a long time. "That," she said, "is the most dishonest honesty I've ever heard." "I know," I said. "I'm ashamed. A little." "Just a little?" I'm a watchmaker, I said. I value every second you're here. She looked down, smiling in spite of herself. Then she did something I wasn't expecting. She slid the watch across the workbench toward me. Then fix it, she said. Are you sure? I asked. For 2 years I've kept his time stopped, she said. I thought that if it started moving, I'd be betraying him. But I think I finally want to hear it tick again, even if it's scary. I picked up the watch, opened the case, and that's when I saw it, what I had missed on that first evening, because I had been looking for a breakdown, not a message, tucked behind. I picked up the watch, opened the case, and that's when I saw it, what I had missed on that first evening, because I had been looking for a breakdown, not a message. Tucked behind the casing, taped to the inside, was a tiny folded slip of paper, yellowed. I would never have noticed it if I wasn't taking the balance wheel out completely. Maya, I said quietly, there's something in here. Inside. Did you know? She paled. No, she whispered. I never opened it that deep. I was too afraid to touch it. I carefully picked up the paper with tweezers and unfolded it on the workbench under the lamp. 4 words, in an unfamiliar handwriting, masculine, rushed. Wind it. Live on. Maya stared at those 4 words, holding her breath. That's his handwriting, she finally said. Her voice broke. He knew. He hid this before. She didn't finish. He knew you would stop time, I said gently. And he left you permission to start it again. Maya began to cry, quietly, without making a scene, the way people cry when they've done it alone too many times. I didn't try to comfort her. I just pulled my stool closer and sat beside her. And that, it seemed, was enough. 2 years, she whispered. For 2 years, it was right here. I wore it over my heart and didn't know he had spoken to me. Sometimes, I said, the most important things are hidden in the places we're too afraid to open. She looked at me. Her eyes were wet, but for the first time they lacked that old heaviness. Fix it, Leo, she said. Today. I want to hear it. I worked, and she watched. I installed the Prague spring, straightened the balance wheel, and reassembled the mechanism piece by piece. It took an hour. She watched every movement of my hands without looking away, and never in my life had I intentionally worked so slowly. When I tightened the final screw, I wound it. The small crown gave way, and the watch, dead for 2 years, ticked. Once. A pause, as if remembering how to do it. Then again, and it started running. Maya brought it to her ear and closed her eyes. Tears were streaming down her face, but she was smiling, with that smile that finally reached her eyes. Hello, she whispered to the watch, or to him, or maybe to herself. We sat and listened to it tick, adding its voice to the 20 others on the walls. And for the first time, this lack of sync didn't sound like chaos. It sounded like a choir. Thank you, Maya said, opening her eyes. Don't thank me, I said. I stalled for 3 weeks. I'm not thanking you for fixing it, she said. I'm thanking you for not letting me bury it before I was ready to hear. She stood up, still wearing my sweater, holding the revived watch. And for the first time, she held it not against her chest, protecting it, but in her open palm, freely. I should go, she said, but she didn't move. Maya, I said, if you leave right now, this watch is fixed, and you have no reason to come back on Thursdays. I know, she said. That's exactly what I'm thinking about. I walked around the counter. I stopped at exactly the distance that could still be called polite, and yet no longer could be. Then invent a new reason, I said. Like what? Like returning my sweater, in person, next Thursday. The corner of her mouth twitched. That's a very clumsy strategy for a man who works with precision mechanisms. I'm better with gears than with people, I said. I noticed, she said, and she stepped closer. May I? I asked quietly. She didn't answer with words. She stood on her tiptoes and kissed me herself, carefully, the way one winds an old mechanism, afraid of applying too much pressure. Her lips were warm and the watch ticked in her palm between us, and I felt that ticking in my own chest, as if my own heart had finally remembered its rhythm. When we pulled back, she pressed her forehead against mine. This, she whispered, is highly unprofessional for a watchmaker. File a complaint, I said. Office hours are on Thursdays. She laughed into my shoulder and I hugged her because she leaned in first, because she wanted to, because I wanted to so badly that my ribs ached. She didn't leave that evening. We locked up the shop and walked under one umbrella, hers, which she finally hadn't forgotten, to a little coffee shop on the corner that brewed coffee strong enough to be considered a challenge. She ordered tea and stole half my cookie, even though she said she didn't want any. "This is theft," I said. "This is getting to know each other," she replied. And I knew right then that I was a goner. But I have to be honest, things didn't become easy right away. The next morning she texted me at 7 a.m., "I'm scared." Just 2 words. I replied, "Me too. Do you want to have a scary breakfast for two?" Because I knew a thing or two about fear. I had hidden in my shop for 3 years, fixing other people's time because I couldn't bring myself to start my own. And Maya had carried a stopped watch for 2 years. We were both hiding, just in different rooms of the same house. That Thursday she returned the sweater and stayed for dinner. The next one she hung the first of her paintings in my back room. Temporarily. Temporarily lasted exactly until it became forever. A month later, I stopped by her school during a rehearsal. I stood in the doorway while she conducted an orchestra of 30 kids playing slightly out of tune. She caught my eye and smiled, without missing a beat. Afterwards, when the kids had scattered, she walked over, still holding her baton. "You came," she said. "I keep time," I said. "Turns out, that's my job too." "They play terribly," she said about the kids, affectionately. "They play with life," I said. "Being out of sync isn't chaos, it's a choir. Someone recently showed me that." She looked at me as if I had said something important without realizing it. And then she kissed me right there, amidst the overturned chairs and forgotten sheet music. The grandfather of that watch, by the way, was found. Not grandfather, the father of her fiancé, an old man named Walter, who thought the watch was lost forever. Maya called him herself. It was her own decision. We went to see him together. Maya placed the living watch into his palm, and it ticked, and the old man cried, holding her hand, saying, "Daniel would be happy. He wouldn't have wanted you to stop along with it." On the way back in the car, Maya was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "You know what's the strangest part? I thought fixing it meant betraying him, but it turned out to be the opposite. That's exactly what he was asking me to do, with 4 words. Wind it. Live on," I said quietly. "Wind it. Live on," she repeated. And she took my hand on the seat between us and didn't let go the whole ride back. Half a year later, she moved into the apartment above the shop, the one where I grew up, where the third floorboard from the door creaks, where you can see that same flickering street lamp from the window. She hung up all her paintings. Every single one. I fixed an old piano for her that she found at a flea market, and now, in the evenings, the shop below and the music above ticked and played together, out of sync and in harmony all at once. Iris, my ex, dropped by once. By chance she was walking past and saw the light. "You look different, Leo," she said. "I'm fixing something new," I replied. And for the first time, her words didn't take up residence in my chest. They just passed by, like someone else's time. Daniel's watch now hangs in our bedroom. Maya decided it herself. Not to hide it, not to bury it, but to hang it in plain sight. "Let it tick," she said. "Let the house always hear the time is moving forward, and that it's nothing to be afraid of." A year later, I did something I had never done before. I wound my own wristwatch. The one I had worn stopped for years because I constantly forgot about it. Maya noticed immediately. Of course she did. She always notices. "It's running," she said, taking my hand. "It's running," I confirmed. "Since when?" "Since a woman brought me a dead watch and taught me that you don't fix time just so it can sit there looking pretty. You fix it so it can move again." That same evening, I opened the case of Daniel's watch, with Maya's permission, and beneath the old note, I taped a new one, in my handwriting. Also, 4 words, just in case, many years from now, someone ever opens it that deep again. Now, we move together. Maya found it by accident a few weeks later when she was winding the watch before bed. She didn't say anything. She just came to me, sat in my lap, and listened for a long, long time to the 20 clocks ticking on the wall, and the 21st in our bedroom, and the 22nd on my wrist, all out of sync, all alive. A choir, not chaos. Sometimes late at night when the rain taps against the glass, and then the wind seems to drive the drops back up. I sit at my workbench, Maya dozing upstairs, and I think about that first Thursday, about a woman in a wet gray coat who carried stop time against her chest because it made her feel calmer, and about how close I came to telling her no in that very first minute. I've fixed hundreds of clocks in my life, found hundreds of faults, but the only mechanism truly worth making move again turned out not to be made of gears. It was made of 2 people hiding in different rooms of the same house, and of 4 words hidden by a man I never met, but to whom I seem to owe everything. Wind it. Live on. He wrote that for her. But in a way, for me too. What would you do if someone brought you something impossible to fix and asked you not to say no? Would you have opened the case deep enough to find a note you were never meant to read? Have you ever had to rewind time that you stopped yourself? Tell me your story in the comments. If you enjoyed this, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next story.